Hey guys, what's up? It is the Kerbal here, and we are back for another episode of Kerbal Tutorials. Today we are going to take a giant leap forward in our space program, and we are going to land on the moon. Now, I had already recorded this, but the video footage had gotten corrupted, I guess, or something like that. And so I'm re-recording it, but I already have the spacecraft designed, and it is a pretty good design, if I do say so myself. I actually tested this out on my single player world, and I was able to get to Joule, I was able to get to the sphere of influence of Joule using this design, which is pretty good if you ask me. But today we are going to be taking it to the moon and back. And first thing I'm doing is, when I had first recorded the video, I'd actually forgotten that I put in the legs upside down on the lander, so I was just quickly fixing that, and just checking the action groups and everything, making sure everything's good to go. Staging and all that, because I have not used this design in quite a while, because I recorded that a month or two, or around the same time that I recorded the first episode of Kerbal Tutorials. I recorded them all at the same time. And so yeah, let's just get this thing on a roll. If you want the design, I will put a link in the description to download of it if you want to try it out for yourself. But, yeah, obviously first thing you need to do when getting to the moon is get into orbit, and then you can pretty much just go from there. So we're just going to use our asparagus staging, which, apparently is the most efficient way to use your rockets. Is basically, you have your fuel tanks so that, they're set up in a way so that, two engines are, like, feeding all the tanks, and then, the next two engines are feeding all the tanks except for the ones that the other two are being fed by. It's weird to explain, but yeah, and that's what I'm. So basically, just drop two tanks at a time, like the one that runs out the quickest. And it's apparently a very, very efficient way of getting into orbit. So that's what I'm just doing here. I can't see on my preview window who we have today with us, but I'm assuming they are pretty pimp since they're going to the moon. The first Kerbals to land on the moon in our universe. Pretty exciting stuff. I have landed on the moon before, obviously. I uploaded that cinematic that I had done. That was actually my first time landing on the moon. That cinematic. I recorded that way back. I think back in like March. Which doesn't sound that way back, but that's the first time like I was playing it. That was like the first time I ever landed on another body. It was pretty amazing experience, the first time you land on something else. So that's what I'm trying to help you guys do today. Trying to help you guys get to another celestial body. Landing on a planet, that's a whole nother story though. So here we're just increasing our apoapsis here, trying to get an orbit around Kerbin. Just dropping those last two tanks over some sort of civilian city. I heard that they are actually going to add squad, that is, they're going to add like civilian cities and all that, and other geological landmarks that you can use. That'll be really awesome. Dropping nuclear engines on a city. That'd be really horrible. But hey, it's a video game. And now that we're at the apoapsis, it's just gonna burn a little bit more so we can get our periaps up. Playing this game really does make you sound makes you sound really smart. Apoapsis and periapsis and Delta V and all those weird terms I've never heard of before playing this game. It is a really fun game though. If you've never played this game, you absolutely have to try it. There's a demo, which is pretty much the same thing as the regular game, except you don't get all the parts and you can only go to the moon. But it's so much fun. You absolutely have to try it. Okay, so now we're in orbit. So basically what we're going to do here is we're going to wait for the moon to come over the horizon. And once we do that, we're just going to burn prograde. Oh, there it is. So we're going to turn prograde as the moon's coming over the horizon. And then we're just going to burn prograde until we get an encounter with the moon. This is the easiest way to get an encounter with the moon. And so, here we go. Now we're just going to burn with our main sail. I usually would have ditched the stage by now, but I figured we have a lot of extra fuel in it, so I might as well just use it. And as you can see, our apoapsis is expanding towards the moon. And, there's a bug on my wall over there, a moth, and I'm going to resist not killing it. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm basically setting up so that the main cell engine crashes straight into the it's gonna crash straight into the moon, so like it's just gonna get rid of that debris because you don't want debris. even though I have tons of debris. And now what I'm doing is I'm just using RCS to make it so that our ship doesn't crash onto the moon, but we have a periapse around the moon. It's about 30,000 meters, I believe. So there we go. So now that's going to crash straight into the moon, and we're going to just barely avoid it. And we can use that 30,000 meters to get in orbit. Just extending solar panels here so that we don't run out of power. I have actually on my personal world, I was sending a satellite over to Duna, and I forgot to extend the solar panels. So as I was going into from my aero brake, as I was going in for my aero braking maneuver, I ran out of electricity and kind of crashed into the surface. So here we go. Now we are in the moon's sphere of influence, and now I'm just setting up in a maneuver node so that we burn retrograde and lose all our horizontal velocity so that we get in orbit around it. And here I'm just testing out, because there's a weird, I'm not sure if it's a bug or a feature, but basically whenever you set up a maneuver node without firing your engines, like your new engines after you detach the other engines, it'll still think that you still have the maximum thrust of the old engine. So I was just testing there to see how long it's actually going to take of a burn. And so here we are at the maneuver node. Now we're just burning and slowing down. As you can see, we had a massive massive orbit around Kerbal because of that gravity assist that we were getting from the moon here, which is pretty nuts. That's a good way of getting it out of the atmosphere. Out of the sphere of influence of Kerbal. If you just go for a gravity assist around the moon, it's a good way of getting out. But I've never actually tried it, so I'll test around. I'll play around with that later. But here we go, just circularizing our orbit around the moon here, getting to a correct position. You do want a circular orbit around the moon, or around anybody that you're going to be returning from, because it just makes it easier to dock with. And that's why I upload the docking video before this video, so that we can practice our docking. Because you do need to dock for this, because we're going to send down our lander. We don't want to send down all of our fuel, because that's just going to waste our fuel, because we don't want to have to carry all that fuel down, because that'll just waste it. Because it'll just be more for us to carry down, obviously, and more work for our engines and more fuel burn. So we're just going to send down a small lander with just enough fuel to get down to the atmosphere, to get down to the moon and get back up, and then we are going to head back home once we are done. So here we go. Now I'm just taking out the Kerbals and 2 Kerbals that are going, just putting them into the lander. Then we're going to leave one in there to man the craft, just in case we do need to use him for something. And we're just going to decouple the node there. Just going to push away from the craft, and there we go. We got our landing set up, activating the engine. And now I'm just going to try to move away from the spacecraft, because that's actually the direction we have to be going, and I don't want to crash into it. So let's just try to tease around it here. There we go. Now I'm going to burn retrograde until I get a good spot where I want to land on the moon. And there, looks good. I just picked a random spot, didn't actually think about it. Here we go, coming in for our landing now. Just going to point retrograde and burn a little bit, so we kill our horizontal velocity, because the moon has no atmosphere, obviously, so we can't use parachutes to land on it. So we have to use our engine, which is a bit of a pain. And I forgot one really important thing on this craft, which is advanced SAS. So I have to kind of use the keys here to try to keep it steady, which is just a pain. But that's what I get when that's what you get for being stupid and for getting advanced SAS on a lander. It's not really required, it's just really helpful, because this is such a light lander. Just like a touch of the key is really sensitive. I probably could have gone into fine control mode, but I just didn't feel like it at the time, which is probably stupid of me. But hey, we land on the moon anyway. Spoiler alert. And here we are coming in for our landing. Now that we killed all our horizontal speed, now we're just going vertically straight down. And just gonna come in here really quick, just burn retrograde a little bit more so that we don't crash into the earth at really high speeds. Not the earth, the moon, or the mun at really high speeds. Actually, I believe it has the accent over it, so I believe it is pronounced moon. But it doesn't have it in game. And there we go. We have touched down on the moon. Let's turn on the lights. Let's open up our solar panels so we don't lose power. There we go. Let's lower our ladder here. Right onto the light. That was brilliant planning on my part. And let's bring out our Kerbals to be the first people to walk on the moon there. There he is, all happy and excited, jumping up and down, using RCS, enjoying that decreased gravity feeling. Let's get the other guy out here to play with him. Bounce around a little bit. There it is, yeah. Well, what else can you really do on the moon but plant a flag, because we are in 0.2. So let's plant a flag, let's name it the first landing site. And let's put some sort of really cool and historic message on here, describing the journey here, and if aliens ever come in the future when the Kerbal kind has been killed, let's leave them a message on what we were like. And let's plant a site flag right next to it, because why not? And we'll name this landing site or something like that. And since we already have our historic message, we'll just make this one say hi, Mom, because that seems good enough to me. Let's spin around a bit, and then let's head back, because there isn't really much more to do on the moon at this point in the game. But eventually, there could be colonizing and mining. The possibilities are endless. It'll be so much fun. I love seeing... Half of the fun of this game, honestly, is just seeing where the developers are taking it. That's probably like one of the most fun parts about watching a game being... like playing an alpha game. Just getting to watch where it's being taken, and like, it's just amazing. You have to buy this game. It's not even a question. I'm forcing you to. Alright, now we're taking off again. Now, when you're taking off from the moon, since the gravity is very little and there's no atmosphere, you can pretty much just start your gravity burn just about immediately. That's what I'm doing here, and then I realized that I'm going north, like an idiot. So I quickly changed that to go west. So now I'm pointing west, and now I just have to wait for my what was that? Predicted orbit to change its inclination. I want to go west because my the ship that we're using to return home from the moon, that's in the equatorial orbit, so it's going from east to west. So I need to also match that. And it looks like we fixed it, so let's just burn a little bit until we get our app maps us up here. And then we're just going to use a maneuver node to just plan out our flight. We don't really need one, it's just good for planning. I usually actually like it so that when I have to, when you gotta aim at prograde, whenever you're pointing at it on the nav ball, your prograde will usually move like the nav ball turn. So I use it to, whenever you do prograde, it'll predict where you have to be facing before, like by the time you get there. Like it'll predict where where you have to be facing. So if you just point like below prograde, eventually the nav ball will turn and you're facing prograde. So it's my own babbling. That's what it is. Anyway, it looks like we don't even get in orbit. So basically, what we're doing here is we're just toying around, and we're just trying to see if we can get a close encounter before we even get into an orbit, which honestly there's no point of getting into an orbit because we just need to connect up with this thing, and it looks like we do. So now I'm just going to kill my relative target velocity as we did with docking, and boom, now I'm going about 0, and that gives us an orbit anyway, so there's really no point to that. And now I'm just going to change it so our prograde vector is on the pink marker, as always. And it's going to burn towards it until we get a relatively close approach, which it looks like we are doing now. Very good. Now I'm just going to get ready to burn retrograde and kill our target velocity like that. Bam. And now I'm just going to try to find it. There it is. So now I don't really need the map anymore. I'm just going to burn program. Well, I'll use it anyway, just so I can see how close I get to it. It looks like 0.0 kilometers is pretty good to me. So now there it is. Just kill my relative velocity really fast. And now I'm going to point the ship north, so that I know the docking port is facing north. And now I'll make this one point south like this. Actually, no, I'll make it point straight up. That might be better because the ship is straight above the other ship. So there we go. I'll make that point south, and this is a really easy docking right here. Just up to down like this. Slow myself down with RCS, and bang, instant docking right there. That's really good, and I probably won't be doing it again. Now let's just get to the light side of the moon so we can see what we're the light side of the moon. Let's get to where the sun is so we can see what we're doing here. And there we go. Now let's just transfer the crew from the lander to the return vessel. I guess that's what we can call it. Like so. There we go. Let's take all the fuel we can out of the lander because we won't be needing it anymore. And let's just undock from it. Just leave it here. Leave it in orbit around the moon in case we ever do need it again. Alright, now I'm just going to track those panels just so I don't hit the lander and break them, because those are expensive. And now let's just get away from it really quickly. We can extend those again. Now let's wait till we get to periap so we can do a Hobman, or however it's pronounced, transfer. Basically, you will get the most efficient burn when you're at your periaps, because that's when you're going your fastest. So the faster you're going already, that'll give you a more efficient burn. I don't know why. It's physics or something like that. Yeah, physics. There we go. Nice and good. Now let's just bring our curve and periaps down now that we're escaping the moon sphere of influence. Let's bring it down so that we're inside the atmosphere, and that will do that'll take care of itself. And there we go. Now let's just time warp away from the moon. See it receding from us. If we look down. Okay, I guess we're not there. It is. Watch the moon recede and Kerbal approach. And there it is. Now let's just time warp a little bit until we get into the atmosphere. There we go. Track the solar panels so they don't break. And let's just detach that whole section, because we don't really need it anymore. And once again, there's no cities to actually drop the nuclear engines on, so no one's really going to suffer from that. Here we go. Now we're just going to spin until, there we go. Now we encounter the atmosphere. Let's point the bottom end towards Kerbal, so that way that's where the heat shield is, or quote unquote heat shield, because there isn't really one yet. It's just advanced SAS that's burning up, but who cares? And now let's just watch our range altitude, because that's our true altitude. The altitude that's at the top of the screen is actually your altitude at sea level. And so the radar altitude is your actual altitude above the surface. And so we're coming in pretty quickly here now. We still got some atmospheric effects, because we are going pretty fast when we entered here. Looks like they're starting to die away now. I'm going to wait until they're completely died away before I activate my parachute. I don't really have a reason, just cause there's no real defect or for doing it now, because there is no actual re-entry hazard. It's just the effect. But there we go. Parachute's activated, and looks like we are coming in for our landing now. Just quickly checking everything, make sure everything's good. Radar altitude, we're still above 3,000 meters. Which, I don't know how high we are. I believe, let's check one more time, because now we're at 3,000. Yeah, we're about 1 kilometer in the air. But 1 kilometer above sea level, I mean. So now we're just coming in for our landing, waiting for those parachutes to deploy fully. And there it is. And it looks like we have safely touched down on Kerbal. The first Kerbals on the moon have now returned safely home, being famed celebrities that they are. And that, my friends, is how you get to onto the moon and back. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time. Yeah.